I often find myself reflecting on those early mornings in Austin, the city I've called home for over a decade. The sun would rise slowly, casting golden light over the Texas hills and illuminating the vibrant murals that decorated our neighborhood. I would sip my coffee, savoring its warmth while listening to the distant sounds of musicians tuning their guitars in Zilker Park. Life seemed perfect, or at least that's what I told myself. My husband, Mark, was a good man. He worked hard at his tech job, and we enjoyed a comfortable life together. Our weekends were filled with trips to local food festivals or evenings spent at our favorite bar on South Congress. Yet beneath this polished exterior lay an emptiness I couldn't ignore. Conversations between us had dwindled to logistics, what needed fixing around the house or when to pay the bills. The laughter and intimacy we once shared faded into routine. Then one afternoon, as I was sorting through old boxes in the attic, I stumbled upon photographs from years past. There he was, as my stepson Alex, smiling broadly with his tousled hair and youthful exuberance. Memories flooded back of family vacations and lazy afternoons spent in our backyard. Alex had moved away for college and hadn't returned home much since then. Life had taken him elsewhere, but now he was back in town for a brief visit. The news hit me unexpectedly, stirring something deep within me that I had buried long ago. As I sat there surrounded by remnants of our shared past, my heart raced with anticipation mixed with an unsettling flutter of attraction I hadn't anticipated feeling again. It felt wrong. He was my stepson after all, but those memories of him as a boy morphed into something different in my mind's eye. That evening, we gathered for dinner at our dining table, a place that had hosted countless meals filled with laughter and conversation during happier times. Alex arrived late but brought with him an infectious energy that filled the room as if he were still that carefree child I remembered. The way he spoke about his life now, his studies, friends, dreams, made me smile genuinely for the first time in ages. "Mom, you should come visit me at school," he suggested playfully between bites of lasagna. "Maybe someday," I replied softly, feeling an unexpected warmth spread through me. Mark raised an eyebrow but said nothing, his attention was focused on his phone instead of our son's enthusiasm. As dinner progressed and glasses clinked against one another, I caught glimpses of Alex's eyes, those familiar deep pools that seemed to hold secrets only we could share. After dinner, as Mark retreated to his office to catch up on work emails, Alex and I found ourselves alone in the living room. The silence stretched between us like an unspoken tension hanging thick in the air. "I've missed this place," he said quietly, glancing around as if seeing it anew. "Me too," I replied honestly. We talked about everything and nothing, a mix of nostalgia and casual banter, but beneath it all simmered a current neither of us dared acknowledge openly. When he laughed at one of my jokes, something shifted within me. It felt like stepping onto shaky ground after years of solid footing. As night fell outside our window and shadows danced across the walls lit by soft lamplight, Alex leaned closer to me on the couch. My heart pounded loudly in my chest as we exchanged stories about our favorite music festivals, the ones where we used to dance together under twinkling lights without a care in the world. Then it happened, a moment so fleeting yet so profound that it sent shockwaves through my very being. We locked eyes for just a heartbeat longer than necessary before he brushed his hand against mine casually. It lingered there for just long enough for me to feel its warmth seep into my skin like sunlight breaking through clouds on a dreary day. "Do you remember when we went to see that band at Antone's?" he asked suddenly. "Yes. You were so excited." My voice trembled slightly as memories washed over me like waves crashing against rocks, memories tinged with both joy and longing. In that instant, everything changed. The air thickened between us until it became almost unbearable. The weight of unspoken words hung heavily like ripe fruit ready to fall from its branch. I pulled back slightly but not before catching sight of Mark through the window across the room. He stood there silently watching us without saying a word, a ghostly figure framed by darkness while we sat illuminated by warmth inside our home. What did he see? Did he sense anything amiss? My breath quickened as guilt clawed its way into my chest alongside confusion over feelings I thought were long buried beneath years of duty and expectation. As Alex shifted closer again, instinctively seeking comfort amid uncertainty, the world outside faded away entirely. I knew this moment marked something significant yet terrifyingly unpredictable ahead. The cafe buzzed with the familiar hum of chatter and clinking cups as I stepped inside, a sanctuary from the chaos swirling in my mind. The warm, inviting aroma of freshly brewed coffee wrapped around me like a comforting blanket. I scanned the room, half hoping to see Alex seated at our usual corner table, where we had shared countless laughs and secrets in the past. But today, I felt an unsettling sense of anticipation. As I approached the counter to order my usual, a simple black coffee, I caught sight of him in the back, his head bent over a book. The sight sent a jolt through me. It was strange how something so mundane could ignite such a whirlwind of emotions. My heart raced as I made my way to him, each step heavy with unspoken words. "Mind if I join you?" I asked, forcing a casual tone despite the tension coiling in my stomach. He looked up, surprise flickering across his face before it settled into a warm smile that made my heart skip. "Of course not," he said, gesturing to the empty seat across from him. As I sat down, our eyes locked for a moment longer than necessary. The air around us thickened with unacknowledged feelings that had lingered since his return. We exchanged small talk about mundane topics, his recent job search and my attempts at gardening, but every word felt charged with something deeper. "Have you been okay?" he asked suddenly, concern etching lines on his brow. I hesitated, unsure how to answer without revealing too much. "Just busy with work and life," I replied vaguely. It felt like an inadequate response to such a loaded question. He nodded but didn't seem convinced. "You know you can talk to me about anything." A lump formed in my throat at his sincerity. "I appreciate that," I managed to say while battling the guilt gnawing at me for feeling this way about him, my stepson. As we continued to chat, laughter spilled between us like an old melody rediscovered. The world outside faded further away until it was just us, two souls entangled in a moment that felt both exhilarating and wrong. And then it happened. We shared an unguarded look that lingered too long before he leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've missed this," he said softly. My breath caught as memories flooded back, the warmth of our past closeness before life had complicated everything. Before I could process what was happening, he reached out and brushed his fingers against mine on the table. A simple gesture that ignited an electric spark between us. The cafe faded into background noise as we sat there suspended in time until reality crashed back in like an unwelcome wave. Guilt washed over me once more. This was wrong on so many levels. Yet here we were, teetering on the edge of something forbidden. We kissed. The words escaped before I could stop them. They hung between us like an uninvited guest crashing a party. His eyes widened slightly as shock registered on his face before morphing into something else, something more intense that sent my heart racing anew. "I didn't mean for it to happen," he stammered, pulling back slightly as if creating distance would erase what had just transpired. "I didn't either," I whispered back, panic rising within me as shame crept in alongside desire, a toxic combination that left me breathless and trembling beneath its weight. We sat in silence for what felt like hours but was likely only moments as reality settled back around us like an uncomfortable shroud. What had we done? What would this mean for both of us? "Maybe we should just forget it happened," Alex suggested finally, though his voice lacked conviction. "Yeah, maybe," I replied weakly while inwardly screaming at myself for wanting anything but that outcome. The rest of our conversation felt forced after that moment, a fragile veneer covering the truth simmering beneath the surface. As we parted ways outside the cafe, each step away from him felt heavier than lead. Guilt gnawed at my insides while longing clawed at my heartstrings. That evening found me restless at home. Every creak of the house echoed with reminders of what had transpired earlier that day. The kiss, tinged with regret yet laced with undeniable connection, haunted me relentlessly. My husband was oblivious as he flipped through channels on television while I fidgeted beside him on the couch, lost in turmoil over choices made under dim cafe lights just hours earlier. "How was your day?" he asked absent-mindedly without looking away from the screen, an innocent inquiry laden with irony given how much mine had shifted dramatically without him even knowing it. "Fine," I replied tersely while forcing myself not to dwell on thoughts of Alex or our moment together. Instead, focusing on mundane conversations about work deadlines and weekend plans meant to keep appearances intact despite everything unraveling internally within me like frayed threads threatening to snap completely under pressure. Later that night after dinner, when silence enveloped us again, I found myself staring out into darkness beyond our window, contemplating everything swirling through my mind when suddenly there came a soft knock at our door, breaking through my reverie, startling me into action, almost instinctively rising from where I'd been seated. Alone, lost within thoughts too tangled up for anyone else's comprehension, let alone my husband's easygoing demeanor, which seemed worlds apart now from what lay beneath. Surface-level interactions between us lately. Opening it revealed Alex standing there under dim porch light, his expression serious yet vulnerable enough to make my heart race all over again, despite knowing how wrong this encounter could be given circumstances surrounding family dynamics involved here too complicated already without adding further complications into mix. "What are you doing here?" My voice came out sharper than intended, betraying nerves fluttering inside as confusion mixed with excitement coursed through veins, simultaneously threatening both resolve built up over years against temptation presented by proximity now bearing down heavily upon us both alike, leaving little room left untouched by emotions running rampant just beneath skin's surface, ready to erupt at any moment if given chance. "I needed to see you." His honesty struck deep, resonating within me harder than anticipated, leaving little doubt behind regarding sincerity behind those words spoken aloud, now hanging between us both, creating palpable tension, filling air surrounding two people caught up amidst whirlwind circumstances spiraling beyond control, leading somewhere neither one expected nor fully understood yet. Before another thought could cross either mind or mouth, we stood frozen mere inches apart, feeling gravity pulling closer together until finally unable resist any longer, impulse took over, leading directly toward inevitable conclusion, waiting just beyond reach, beckoning forth despite consequences lingering, ever-present, reminding both parties involved nothing would remain unchanged afterward, once crossed, line drawn, clearly defining boundaries set forth long ago, separating familial ties from personal desires hidden deep down below surface-level awareness, kept locked away until now exposed, raw vulnerability laid bare before each other, inviting exploration, fraught danger lurking nearby, ready strike should either falter, stepping forward too boldly toward unknown territory, fraught uncertainty lying ahead. The night hung heavy with unspoken words, the air thick with tension as I stood there, inches away from him. My heart raced, a chaotic rhythm echoing my internal struggle. The bathroom's dim light flickered, casting shadows that danced around us, amplifying the weight of our shared secret. How had we come to this point? A mere kiss had ignited something I hadn't dared to acknowledge until now. He looked at me, his eyes searching mine for answers I didn't have. I could almost hear the clock ticking in the silence between us, each second a reminder of the consequences looming on the horizon. "What are we doing?" I managed to whisper, my voice barely above a breath. "I don't know," he replied quietly, his gaze unwavering. "But it feels real." Real. That word hung between us like a fragile thread, one that could snap at any moment if pulled too hard. The memories of family gatherings flashed through my mind, laughter and warmth mingling with an underlying emptiness I had come to accept as normal in my marriage. Yet here he was, my stepson, back in Austin after years away, stirring emotions I thought were buried deep. Our lips met then, softly at first, an innocent brush that quickly turned urgent as if our very souls craved connection. The kiss was electric, igniting every nerve ending in my body and awakening desires long suppressed. But just as quickly as it began, doubt crept back in. How could we let this happen? What would it mean for us both? I pulled away abruptly, breathless and bewildered. We can't do this, I said firmly, shaking my head as if that would erase what just transpired. Why not? His voice was steady but laced with confusion. You feel it too. I wanted to argue. I wanted to say that this was wrong on so many levels. But there was a part of me that couldn't deny the truth of his words. The loneliness in my marriage had created a void that he seemed all too willing to fill. And yet, he was still my stepson. We need to think about what this means, I replied cautiously, stepping back further into the shadows of the bathroom. His expression shifted from confusion to determination. What if it means we're meant to be more than this? More than just family? That thought sent chills down my spine but also sparked something within me, a flicker of hope mingled with fear. My heart raced again as I considered what lay ahead if we pursued this path. The sound of laughter echoed outside from our family gathering still in full swing, the clinking of glasses and cheerful conversations serving as a stark reminder of reality waiting just beyond these four walls. It felt surreal. How could life continue normally when everything inside me felt so profoundly altered? Maybe we should go back, I suggested weakly, unable to shake off the weight of guilt pressing down on me like a heavy blanket. Or maybe we should embrace what's happening, he countered softly, stepping closer once more. I hesitated but found myself drawn into his orbit again. It was magnetic and terrifying all at once. Just then, a sudden noise from outside broke our moment, the unmistakable sound of glass shattering against tile followed by muffled voices rising in concern. What was that? I asked instinctively as panic surged through me. Let's check, he said urgently before pushing open the bathroom door slightly and peering out into the hallway. As he stepped out cautiously, I followed closely behind him despite every logical reason urging me to retreat back into safety and distance myself from temptation, and him. Outside in the living room chaos reigned. Guests were rushing toward the source of commotion while others stood frozen in shock at what had transpired. A broken vase lay scattered across the floor like shattered dreams amidst laughter now turned anxious whispers. My husband stood among them looking bewildered yet composed despite everything unfolding around him, his eyes scanning faces until they landed on mine with an intensity that sent shivers coursing through me once more. What happened? He asked loudly over the din while moving closer towards where we stood slightly apart from everyone else, trying desperately not to draw attention yet feeling exposed under his scrutinizing gaze filled with questions unasked but palpable nonetheless. Just an accident, I replied quickly before glancing sideways at my stepson who remained silent beside me watching carefully as tension crackled between us both amidst all distractions surrounding our small universe threatening collapse under scrutiny any moment now. The evening dragged on after that incident, laughter resumed but felt forced somehow, a thin veneer covering deeper currents swirling beneath surface-level interactions where secrets simmered below waiting for opportunity strike when least expected. I caught fleeting glances exchanged between him and me throughout dinner, each one laden with meaning only we understood while pretending everything remained unchanged around us. Yet nothing ever could again after tonight's revelations laid bare raw emotions threatening spill over edges previously defined by familial bonds now blurred beyond recognition. Eventually guests began departing, leaving behind remnants of joy-tinged sadness lingering like perfume wafting through air, reminding everyone present fleeting moments cherished soon forgotten amid daily routines returning life normalcy restored albeit temporarily until next gathering inevitably approached bringing fresh waves uncertainty crashing against shores hearts left vulnerable exposed longing connection found only within confines family ties twisted unexpectedly. As night deepened into darkness punctuated by distant sounds Austin nightlife pulsing outside windows illuminating streets alive vibrant energy contrasting stark reality unfolding within walls home where choices made would ripple far beyond immediate surroundings, affecting lives intertwined forevermore. Finally alone together again once more after last guest departed, I turned toward him, feeling weight anticipation hanging heavily between us, thickening atmosphere, charged electricity palpable, drawing closer once more against all reason, urging caution, reminding consequences lay ahead should boundaries crossed yet again. Tonight changed everything, he murmured, breaking silence, finally giving voice, thoughts swirling endlessly since first kiss, ignited spark transforming everything, felt familiar, suddenly foreign, uncharted territory, beckoning exploration, fraught danger lurking nearby, ready strike should either falter, stepping forward too boldly toward unknown territory, fraught uncertainty lying ahead. I nodded slowly, knowing truth echoed deeper than words spoken aloud. We stood precariously balanced on edge cliff, overlooking abyss-filled possibilities, both thrilling, terrifying, simultaneously, waiting patiently for decision made either way, consequences inevitable looming large, casting shadows over futures uncertain ahead. The evening air hung heavy with the weight of unspoken words. As we lingered in the dim light of my bathroom, our breaths mingled, creating a tension that felt electric. I could hardly believe how quickly everything had escalated, yet here we were, two souls drawn together by an inexplicable force. The broken faucet dripped rhythmically, punctuating the silence as if to remind us of the precariousness of our situation. "Do you think this is right?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The question hung between us like a fragile thread, threatening to snap under the weight of our choices. I looked into his eyes, searching for clarity but finding only reflection, a mirror of my own turmoil. "I don't know," I replied honestly, feeling a pang of guilt twist in my chest. "But it feels real." The admission slipped out before I could stop it, and I regretted it instantly. My heart raced as I wondered whether he understood the implications behind those words. He stepped closer, closing the distance between us as if he sought to erase any lingering doubt. "Sometimes what feels real is just an illusion," he countered softly, his gaze unwavering. But tonight felt different. The truth settled over me like a shroud. We had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. In that moment, standing there together in the flickering shadows cast by the overhead light, everything else faded away, the emptiness of my marriage, the expectations of family life, none of it mattered anymore. I hesitated for a moment longer before taking his hand in mine. The warmth of his skin against mine sent shivers down my spine. "We spent the night together," I murmured, recalling how we had shared whispered secrets and laughter that echoed long after the sun dipped below the horizon. He nodded slowly as if acknowledging both the gravity and sweetness of our shared experience. "I don't want this to end," he confessed with an intensity that made my heart ache. But deep down, I knew that every moment we stole was tinged with danger. Just then, a shadow fell across the window, a figure passing by outside caught in my periphery. My breath caught in my throat as I recognized my husband's silhouette moving past. Panic surged through me like ice water coursing through my veins. What if he had seen us? What if this was all about to unravel? I pulled away instinctively, suddenly aware of how vulnerable we truly were in this moment, two people tangled in emotions they didn't fully understand while standing on borrowed time. "Did he see us?" My voice cracked slightly as dread filled me. "I don't know," he replied cautiously, glancing toward the window where shadows danced against glass panes. "Should we check?" "No." My heart raced at the thought. If he did, it could ruin everything. The fear was palpable, every instinct screamed at me to protect what little remained of my carefully constructed life. We stood frozen for what felt like an eternity before finally breaking apart fully, an unspoken agreement hanging between us that perhaps ignorance was bliss for now. But even as we resumed our previous roles within this fractured household dynamic, an undeniable shift lingered in the air. Over the next few days, life resumed its normal rhythm, or at least attempted to do so, while beneath its surface lay a tempest brewing silently between us both. Every shared glance held unspoken promises and regrets alike. Every conversation felt stilted and strained, as if we were mere actors playing parts assigned by fate rather than participants in our own story. My husband remained blissfully unaware, or so I hoped, of any changes within our home life. His focus remained on work and mundane errands like grocery shopping or fixing leaky pipes around the house while I busied myself with chores that kept me occupied enough not to dwell too deeply on what had transpired. Yet despite these distractions lurking nearby, always tugging gently at my conscience, reminding me of choices made under cover darkness, the thrill mixed with fear transformed into something more complicated than mere attraction. It became harder each day to ignore what simmered just below surface tension, threatening eruption at any moment when least expected. One evening after dinner, while clearing dishes from table alone, my husband engrossed in some documentary about nature, I heard a soft knock on door leading out back patio where faint sounds from city drifted through open window, inviting warmth inside without hesitation, pulling me toward familiar space-filled memories shared over years spent together raising children, watching sunsets unfold slowly, painting skies vibrant colors across horizons stretching endlessly above Austin's skyline, shimmering beneath twilight glow. When I opened it cautiously, revealing stepson standing there illuminated by fading light, casting long shadows across flagstone path leading into garden-filled flowers blooming vibrantly despite coolness creeping into air, signaling change approaching all around us. I felt both exhilarated and terrified simultaneously, knowing full well consequences awaited should anyone catch glimpse forbidden rendezvous unfolding outside walls surrounding home built upon trust, love once cherished now fraying. Threads holding everything intact, slowly unraveling day by day. Can we talk? His voice held urgency laced with something deeper. A mix between longing, uncertainty wrapped tightly around words spoken aloud, daring break silence, enveloping us both since last encounter, left lingering echoes resonating throughout spaces shared, hidden away from prying eyes, ears listening intently, waiting for signs, revealing truths buried beneath surface, yearning desperately escape confines created long ago when lives intertwined unexpectedly, changed forevermore. I nodded slowly, stepping aside, allowing him entrance into sanctuary created just moments earlier, where whispers echoed softly amongst walls, adorned memories captured, snapshots taken during happier times lived long ago, before shadows crept quietly, stealing joy away piece by piece until nothing remained except hollow shell reflecting past glory lost forevermore. As door closed behind him, sealing off world outside, leaving only two souls entwined within sanctuary built brick by brick over years spent navigating complexities life brought forth, I sensed something shifted again between us both, no longer merely stepson stepmother bound together through blood ties, instead becoming something more profound, intricate tangled web spun intricately intertwining hearts seeking solace amidst chaos surrounding them, desperately trying hold on to fleeting moments stolen away from prying eyes lurking nearby, waiting patiently ready strike should either falter, stepping forward too boldly toward unknown territory, fraught uncertainty lying ahead. What happened that night? He asked, suddenly breaking silence filled tension thickening atmosphere around us growing heavier each passing second, stretching taut threatening snap any moment should either breathe wrong way, causing everything unravel completely beyond repair, leaving nothing but remnants. Scattered ground, remnants once cherished now lost forevermore. It changed everything, I replied, finally meeting gaze searching depths hidden behind walls built carefully protecting heart fragile beneath layers armor forged through years spent living life full expectations, duties, responsibilities placed upon shoulders weighed down heavily, burden carried silently while yearning escape confines created long ago when dreams faded replaced reality harsh cruel reminding constantly choices made consequences faced inevitably regardless desires held deep within soul longing find peace amidst turmoil surrounding them relentlessly pressing forward refusing relent until truth revealed finally unveiled bare naked raw stripped bare exposing vulnerabilities laid bare before one another willing embrace whatever came next. Regardless price paid. A flicker of understanding passed between us then. A silent acknowledgement recognizing complexity emotions swirling around each other binding tightly together forming unbreakable bond forged through shared experiences lived deeply intertwined paths crossed forevermore leaving marks indelibly etched hearts minds. Souls alike yearning discover truth hidden beneath layers deception masking reality faced daily navigating treacherous waters filled uncertainty lies waiting patiently ready strike should either falter once again, stepping forward too boldly toward unknown territory, fraught danger lurking nearby, threatening consume whole, leaving nothing behind except echoes, memories whispered softly throughout time, reminding always choices made lead paths traveled ultimately, shaping destinies forged through fire, tempered resilience forged amidst chaos, seeking solace amidst darkness, yearning embrace light shining brightly, illuminating way forward, guiding footsteps gently along winding roads, leading ever closer, destination reached finally, unveiling truths hidden deep within hearts longing, find peace amidst turmoil surrounding them, relentlessly pressing forward, refusing relent until truth revealed, finally unveiled, bare, naked, raw, stripped bare, exposing vulnerabilities laid bare before one another, willing embrace whatever came next, regardless price paid. The doorbell rang, slicing through the silence of the afternoon. I glanced at the clock, surprised to see how late it had grown. My heart quickened as I made my way to the door, a mix of anticipation and dread swirling within me. Would it be him? My stepson? The thought sent a shiver down my spine, both thrilling and terrifying. Opening the door, I found him standing there, his face a mixture of uncertainty and resolve. The sun cast a warm glow around him, but all I could focus on were the shadows lurking just beneath his smile. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice steady yet laced with an undercurrent of tension. "Of course," I replied, stepping aside to let him in. As he crossed the threshold, I couldn't help but notice how much he had changed since returning home, more mature yet still holding on to that youthful spark that had always drawn me to him. We settled into the living room, an awkward silence hanging between us like a fragile thread. The walls seemed to close in around us as memories flooded back, the laughter shared during family dinners and those stolen glances that lingered too long. It felt like a lifetime ago when everything was uncomplicated. "I've been thinking about moving," he finally said, breaking the silence that felt almost suffocating. "Back to California." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. "Why?" The question slipped out before I could stop myself. "I don't know. I just feel like I need to find my own path," he replied, avoiding my gaze. "Things have changed here." I wanted to scream that everything was changing, my marriage crumbling beneath me while I stood helplessly in its wake. But instead, I took a deep breath and fought against the rising tide of emotions threatening to drown me. "Is it because of us?" My voice trembled slightly as I spoke, fear creeping into my heart at what his answer might reveal. He looked up then, meeting my eyes with an intensity that left me breathless. "I don't know what us means anymore." His honesty cut through me like glass, sharp and painful yet somehow freeing. The weight of his words hung in the air between us. Did he feel it too? That strange connection we shared? But even as hope flickered within me, guilt clawed at my insides. We were bound by family ties that should never have been tangled this way. "Maybe we should take some time apart," he suggested softly, each word heavy with unspoken implications. "Figure things out." I nodded slowly, though inside I was screaming against this notion. Time apart? How could we possibly figure anything out when every moment spent together felt electric? As if sensing my turmoil, he reached across the space between us and took my hand gently in his, a simple gesture that ignited something deep within me. "I don't want to lose you," he confessed quietly. His admission sent waves of conflicting emotions crashing over me, desire battled with rationality in a war without end. Yet here we were, two souls lost in our own storms seeking refuge in one another's presence. Suddenly aware of how dangerously close we were standing on this precipice of emotion and consequence, I withdrew my hand reluctantly. "We can't do this," I said firmly but softly enough not to push him away completely. "Why not?" he countered sharply, frustration evident in his tone. "Is it because of your husband?" The mention of my husband sliced through me like a knife, a reminder of all that was at stake if we continued down this path together. "It's complicated," was all I could muster in reply. "Complicated doesn't mean impossible," He shot back defiantly before running a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar yet so foreign now under these circumstances. My heart raced as panic set in. How could something so beautiful feel so wrong? Every moment spent with him felt like stepping closer toward an abyss from which there would be no return. I need time, I finally whispered after several long moments stretched painfully thin between us, each second echoing with unspoken words left hanging in midair like fragile glass ornaments waiting to shatter at any moment under pressure's weight. He nodded slowly but didn't move away. Instead, he leaned closer slightly, a subtle shift that sent heat rushing through me again despite myself. "I'll give you time," he promised softly before standing abruptly as if realizing just how close we had come once more, to crossing lines drawn long ago by fate itself, lines meant for protection rather than entrapment or despair. As he turned toward the door again, a retreat tinged with reluctance, I felt something inside break further open, an ache blossoming anew where hope had once resided firmly rooted deep within soil nourished only by dreams now fading fast into shadows cast long behind us both. But then reality crashed back down upon me like thunder rolling through darkened skies overhead, the sound echoing warnings too loud for either one of us to ignore any longer. Choices made lead paths traveled ultimately shaping destinies forged through fire-tempered resilience forged amidst chaos seeking solace amidst darkness yearning embraced light shining brightly illuminating way forward guiding footsteps gently along winding roads leading ever closer destination reached finally unveiling truths hidden deep within hearts longing find peace amidst turmoil surrounding them relentlessly pressing forward refusing relent until truth revealed finally unveiled bare naked raw stripped bare exposing vulnerabilities laid bare before one another willing embrace whatever came next regardless price paid. And just as quickly as those thoughts came flooding forth, drowning out reason, they were gone again replaced by silence heavier than before, burdened not just by our unaddressed feelings but also by consequences looming large over every decision made thus far, the weight becoming unbearable. I watched him leave without looking back, each step echoing hollowly against wood floors polished smooth over years spent together building lives intertwined now unraveling thread by thread under pressure applied steadily day after day until nothing remained but emptiness hanging thickly between us both leaving behind only echoes memories whispered softly throughout time reminding always choices made lead paths traveled ultimately shaping destinies forged through fire-tempered resilience forged. Amidst chaos seeking solace amidst darkness yearning embrace light shining brightly illuminating way forward guiding footsteps gently along winding roads leading ever closer destination reached finally unveiling truths hidden deep within hearts longing find peace. Amidst turmoil surrounding them relentlessly pressing forward refusing relent until truth revealed finally unveiled bare naked raw stripped bare exposing vulnerabilities laid bare before one another willing embrace whatever came next. Regardless price paid. The air in our home thickened with unspoken words, a tension that wrapped around us like a heavy fog. My husband's proposal for counseling hung in the air, a lifeline cast into turbulent waters, but I didn't know if I could grasp it without dragging us both under. He had been so distant lately, lost in his own world while I floated through mine, caught between the life I had built and the desires that whispered to me from the shadows. Sitting across from him at the kitchen table, I could see the weariness etched into his features. There was a flicker of hope in his eyes as he spoke about our marriage, about rebuilding what had frayed at the edges. "We can work through this," he said softly, almost pleadingly. "I don't want to lose you." But how could I tell him that part of me was already slipping away? The truth was tangled up in my heart like a thorny vine, choking out everything else. I glanced down at my hands, fingers tracing invisible patterns on the table's surface. The memories of my stepson flooded back, the way he looked at me with an understanding that felt so foreign yet familiar all at once. "Maybe we should try," I offered weakly, my voice barely above a whisper. It felt like betrayal to even entertain the thought of trying when my heart was still tethered to someone else. "Let's make an appointment," he suggested, his tone brightening slightly. But inside me, turmoil brewed. Could I sit through therapy sessions while hiding my feelings for him? The man who had returned home and stirred something deep within me? The days passed in a blur of routine and forced smiles. Each time we sat down to dinner or shared a quiet moment on the couch, I felt as though I were wearing a mask, one that cracked under pressure with every glance exchanged between us. My husband remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. One afternoon after work, while picking up groceries at our local market, I spotted him from across the aisle, my stepson. He stood there examining some avocados with that same thoughtful expression he wore when he was lost in music or art. My heart raced as I approached him. It seemed impossible to ignore how much he had grown since moving away. "Hey," I said casually, trying to keep my voice steady despite the fluttering in my chest. He looked up and smiled, a genuine smile that lit up his face and sent warmth flooding through me. "Hi. Just grabbing some stuff for dinner." We exchanged small talk about our weeks and what we were cooking for dinner. It felt normal yet charged with an energy that made every word feel significant. Then came an awkward pause as we both reached for the same apple on the shelf. "Sorry," he laughed nervously as our fingers brushed against one another before quickly retracting. "No worries," I replied, unable to hide my smile. In that moment, standing there surrounded by strangers and mundane groceries, something shifted again between us, a silent acknowledgement of what lingered beneath our conversations. As if reading each other's thoughts without uttering them aloud. Later that evening after dinner with my husband, who seemed oblivious to everything, I found myself staring out of our bathroom window into the darkening sky. The stars began to twinkle against a backdrop of deep blue, a reminder of all those nights spent together years ago when things felt simpler and brighter. Suddenly, there was a quiet knock on my door that made my heart skip a beat. It was him. He had come over unannounced again. "Can we talk?" His voice was low but urgent enough to send shivers down my spine. I opened the door just enough for him to slip inside before closing it quietly behind us. The bathroom felt small and intimate as we faced each other amidst flickering shadows cast by dim light overhead. "I can't stop thinking about you," he admitted breathlessly as if confessing some great sin. My breath caught in my throat, every fiber of my being screamed against what was happening yet yearned for more all at once. "This is wrong," I whispered back even though every part of me wanted to pull him closer instead. He stepped forward slightly, our eyes locked, and then suddenly it happened. Our lips met in an electric collision that sent shockwaves through me like fireworks exploding against midnight skies above Austin's vibrant streets below us outside those walls separating right from wrong. Just then came another knock, this time louder and more insistent than before, as if reality itself were demanding entry into this fragile moment suspended between us. "What are you doing?" My husband's voice echoed through closed doors like thunderclouds rolling across an open field ready to unleash their fury upon unsuspecting souls caught unaware beneath them. Panic surged within me as realization struck hard. How long had he been standing there? What did he see? How would this change everything? "We need to go," he urged urgently while glancing nervously toward where sound reverberated beyond those wooden barriers keeping worlds apart. I hesitated just long enough for doubt to creep back into my mind. The weight of consequences pressing down heavily upon both shoulders now burdened by choices made without foresight or clarity until finally breaking free as adrenaline surged forth urging escape before truth unraveled entirely. But just then another knock sounded louder still, this time accompanied by footsteps retreating hurriedly down hallways echoing emptiness left behind. "What have you done?" My husband called out again, his tone shifting from confusion toward anger simmering just below surface waiting patiently for release. And with each passing moment spent teetering on brink between desire and morality, a choice loomed larger than life itself forcing confrontation inevitable no matter how desperately one might wish otherwise. The weight pressed heavily upon me now. A decision forged amidst chaos, threatening everything familiar, slowly unraveling thread by thread until nothing remained but echoes fading softly into darkness surrounding them both, leaving behind only haunting memories lingering long after choices made led paths traveled, ultimately shaping destinies forged through fire-tempered resilience, forged amidst chaos, seeking solace amidst darkness, yearning embraced light, shining brightly, illuminating way forward. Guiding footsteps gently along winding roads leading ever closer, destination reached, finally unveiling truths hidden deep within hearts longing, find peace amidst turmoil surrounding them, relentlessly pressing forward, refusing relent until truth revealed finally. Unveiled, bare, naked, raw, stripped bare, exposing vulnerabilities laid bare before one another, willing embrace whatever came next regardless price paid. The air hung thick with unspoken words, a tension so palpable that it could be sliced with a knife. I stood in the dim light of the kitchen, my heart racing as I contemplated the weight of my choices. My husband sat at the table, his brow furrowed in concentration over a newspaper that had long ceased to hold his interest. Each rustle of the pages felt like a reminder of the distance between us, an invisible chasm deepening with every passing moment. The echoes of our last argument replayed in my mind, punctuated by the haunting silence that followed. He had sensed something was off, and though he hadn't voiced his suspicions outright, his eyes held questions I wasn't prepared to answer. I busied myself with dinner preparations, chopping vegetables with more force than necessary, trying to drown out the thoughts swirling inside me. "Do you want red or white?" I asked absent-mindedly, as he glanced up from his paper. "Red," he replied curtly, returning to his reading. The word hung in the air like a weight pressing down on my chest. As I poured the wine into 2 glasses, my phone buzzed on the counter. A message from him, my stepson, flashed across the screen. "Can we talk?" My heart skipped a beat. The urgency in those words sent shivers down my spine. "I'll be right back," I said hastily, grabbing my phone and slipping outside before my husband could ask where I was going. The warm Austin evening enveloped me as I stepped onto the porch, seeking solace beneath the stars that twinkled like distant memories. I typed back quickly, "Yes, where?" His response was almost immediate, "At Zilker Park?" The park, the place where laughter mingled with music during festivals and where our secret meetings had begun to weave a tapestry of moments both beautiful and painful. I didn't hesitate long before replying, "On my way." My pulse quickened as I made my way toward Zilker Park. Each step felt heavy with anticipation and dread. What could he possibly want to discuss? The moonlight illuminated my path as if guiding me toward an inevitable confrontation. When I arrived at the park, it was quieter than usual, perhaps because it was a weekday night and most families had gone home. The familiar sounds of laughter and music were replaced by whispers of leaves rustling in the gentle breeze. He stood near a bench under an oak tree, looking contemplative. Our eyes met for just a moment before he approached me. "Thanks for coming," he said softly. I didn't know how much longer I could pretend everything was fine, I admitted, feeling exposed under his gaze. He shifted uncomfortably before speaking again. "I've been thinking about us, about everything." A lump formed in my throat as fear gripped me tightly. "What do you mean?" He took a deep breath, searching for words that seemed stuck somewhere between desire and regret. "I can't shake this feeling. It's like we're caught in something we can't control." The honesty in his voice struck me hard, it mirrored my own turmoil perfectly. "You're right," I said quietly, stepping closer to him as if seeking solace through proximity. We stood there for what felt like an eternity before he continued, "I don't want to hurt anyone, but it's hard not to think about what we have." My heart raced at his admission. It echoed everything I had been grappling with since our first kiss in that dim cafe months ago, a moment that still haunted me despite its sweetness. "I wish things were different," I murmured finally. "Me too," he replied earnestly. "But they aren't." Silence enveloped us again. We both knew what lay behind those words, an acknowledgement of our reality intertwined with longing and regret. Suddenly, he reached out hesitantly and brushed his fingers against mine, a simple gesture yet charged with meaning that sent electricity coursing through me. What do we do now? His voice trembled slightly as if afraid of what came next. I drew in a shaky breath. This wasn't just about us anymore, it involved choices that would ripple through our lives forever. We need to figure out what we want, without hurting anyone else. His expression darkened at that. Guilt washed over him like waves crashing against rocks on a stormy shore. But how do we do that? Before I could respond, movement caught my eye, a shadow flickered behind some bushes nearby. My heart raced again as instinct kicked in. Someone was watching us. Panic surged through me as realization dawned. My husband must have followed me here after all. Someone's here, I whispered urgently while glancing around frantically for cover or escape routes. What? He looked bewildered but instinctively stepped closer to shield me from view even as dread pooled within me at what might happen next. Then suddenly there he stood, my husband emerging from behind trees cloaked in darkness yet unmistakably present. The very man whose presence haunted every corner of this moment now revealed before us both like an unwelcome specter returning home uninvited. His eyes locked onto ours filled not only with confusion but betrayal, and perhaps even anger simmering beneath layers of hurt carefully concealed until now. What's going on here? His voice cut through the tension like glass shattering against concrete, sharp and unforgiving, leaving no room for pretense or denial. Time seemed suspended around us as emotions collided violently within each heart present, forcing confrontation upon us all whether we wanted it or not. In that instant clarity struck amidst chaos. Choices made would lead paths traveled, ultimately shaping destinies forged through fire-tempered resilience forged amidst turmoil surrounding them, relentlessly pressing forward, refusing relent until truth revealed, finally unveiled, bare, naked, raw, stripped bare, exposing vulnerabilities laid bare before one another, willing embrace whatever came next regardless price paid. Everything hinged on this moment. The future of our relationships hung precariously in balance, waiting for someone brave enough to speak up first amid swirling emotions threatening engulfment whole. The air was thick with tension as I stood between them, two men who represented the crossroads of my life. My husband's eyes, usually so warm, now held a flicker of hurt and confusion. Across from him, my stepson's gaze mirrored my own turmoil, an unspoken understanding that we had crossed lines that were never meant to be blurred. I can't keep living like this, I finally said, my voice steady but laced with uncertainty. The weight of the words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Each syllable felt like a stone dropped into still water, sending ripples of consequence through the fragile fabric of our lives. Living like what? My husband's voice was low, almost a whisper, but it cut through the silence sharply. What are you saying? I hesitated, searching for the right words to untangle this web we had woven together, this intricate tapestry of love, guilt, and desire. I'm saying that something has changed, I replied carefully. I can't pretend anymore. Changed? He echoed incredulously. What do you mean by that? Is this about him? His finger pointed toward my stepson with a mix of anger and disbelief. My heart raced as I glanced at my stepson. He stood there silently, his expression unreadable yet filled with an intensity that made it hard to breathe. The memory of our moments together flooded back, the stolen kisses and whispered secrets in dimly lit corners. How could I explain that these feelings had crept in like shadows in the night? It's complicated, I admitted, feeling exposed under their scrutiny. Complicated? My husband scoffed bitterly. You think this is just some complicated feeling? This is betrayal. Betrayal, it was a word that echoed painfully in my mind. I had betrayed my marriage, my vows, and perhaps most importantly, myself. But how could I articulate the depth of my struggle? The longing for something more than just duty? I didn't mean for any of this to happen, I said quietly, fighting back tears threatening to spill over. But it did. What did you expect? He shot back defensively. You've been distant for months. You think I haven't noticed? His accusation stung more than I wanted to admit. He wasn't wrong. The emptiness in our marriage had become palpable, a chasm filled with unspoken words and neglected needs. I thought we could work on things, I replied softly, desperation creeping into my tone. But then he came back. And you couldn't resist? My husband's voice dripped with sarcasm. No. The word slipped out before I could stop it. It wasn't like that. It just happened. Just happened. He shook his head slowly as if trying to comprehend something unfathomable. And what about me? What about us? The question hung heavily between us like a storm cloud ready to burst open at any moment. I don't know, I confessed finally, feeling utterly lost. My stepson shifted slightly beside me. His presence was both a comfort and a source of anguish. He looked at me with an intensity that made my heart race, a silent plea for understanding amid chaos. I don't want to lose either of you, I continued, glancing between them both desperately searching for answers that eluded me. I think you already have, my husband said coldly before turning away from us both. That statement hit harder than any physical blow could have. It felt as if he had stripped away any last semblance of hope for reconciliation between us. You can't just walk away from this, I called after him as he moved toward the door leading out into the night air thickened by tension. He paused briefly but didn't turn around. You're right, I can't. With that finality hanging heavily in the air behind him came an unsettling realization. Everything was unraveling faster than I'd anticipated. The life we built together was slipping through my fingers like sand. We need to talk about this, my stepson said quietly once we were alone again, the weight of his words pressing down on me even more than before. What is there left to say? My voice trembled slightly as anxiety coursed through me. Fear gripped tightly around every thought racing through my mind. There's still so much unsaid. His tone held an unexpected softness, a contrast against our earlier confrontation filled with anger and betrayal. But what if talking only makes everything worse? It can't get much worse than this. His eyes bore into mine earnestly, searching for some flicker of understanding or hope amidst despairing chaos surrounding us both now. I didn't know how to respond. Uncertainty clouded every thought racing through me while emotions tangled hopelessly within each moment spent together thus far. What had begun as innocent curiosity spiraled into something far more complex than either one of us anticipated when first reconnecting after all those years apart. Suddenly there was commotion outside, a loud crash followed by raised voices echoing through our quiet neighborhood streets, breaking apart fragile silence enveloping us inside moments earlier. What was that? My heart raced again as adrenaline surged within me, an instinctual response urging caution despite everything else swirling around inside. I don't know. He stepped closer toward me, instinctively shielding me from whatever chaos lay beyond those walls separating us from reality outside, protective instincts kicking in against threats looming nearby. Before another word could escape either one of us, a loud knock reverberated through the house, followed immediately by shouts demanding entry sent chills racing down spines alike. Open up. We need to talk. A familiar voice shouted urgently from outside, the sound sending waves crashing over everything else around, engulfing all thoughts left unspoken moments ago. My heart sank further still, knowing who stood beyond those doors demanding answers while simultaneously fearing repercussions stemming from everything already set into motion leading up until now, forcing choices none could ever truly prepare for, regardless consequences lying ahead waiting patiently just outside reach.